Well, hello, Misfits Managed Nation. I am excited to be here with you tonight. We are down a Misfit host, I believe. Coach G is quite under the weather, and I know he was not happy about likely having to miss tonight. You know, he loves being on here, but good for him for taking some time and getting the rest because, well, that way he can be here next week and he can recuperate, and you know he'll be watching this as soon as he possibly can. So tonight, you get me, yay, Misfits Spanish Nation, as well as we have, um, I'm really excited about our guest. She is an avid watcher and she's got a heck of a story and she's been through a lot. So she gets to share some of that. Well, I should say she's going to do us the honor of sharing some of her story and what makes her a misfit and how she has worked through that, worked on that, and continues to work through that on a daily basis and figure out how to really embrace the inner misfit and not let herself fit in a box. So I am going to let her introduce herself because obviously she can do it better, and then she's got a lot to talk about. So we're going to jump right in. Shannon gets to be our guest tonight. Shannon, come on in.
Hey, Lauren. Thanks for having me on
Hi.
tonight. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So as you can see, Shannon is working through some stuff. If you are with us live tonight, she is coming to us from the hospital, and she's had a lot going on, but we're appreciative that you were okay doing it from the hospital because that not many people would be okay with doing that. So thank you for being here.
I just wanted to, again, I'm Shannon Morrissey. I was born and raised here in Kansas City, um, and spent a good chunk of my adult life in Ohio, but moved back here to Kansas City 3 years ago. Um, what I really wanted to share tonight was what it's like to be born into a world that is inaccessible for you both physically and internally, because that was and is my reality. I was born with spina bifida. Um, Easiest way to explain that is that my spine was incomplete when I was born, and I was born with a hole in my back that they had to repair when I was born. So I cannot feel anything from the hips down and don't have much movement from the hips down. I use a wheelchair for mobility, and that's been my normal from day one. So being okay with being different has been my life because, in all honesty, when I was growing up, I never realized that it was different because it was my normal, whatever
Yep.
normal might be to everybody.
Yeah.
Um, but I also spent a lot of time in the hospital, so I know how to do this part of it. It might, unfortunately, I really know how to get through this for the most
Yeah.
part. Um, so and I really would like to. A lot of people share their story after the fact, and
Yep.
a lot of people don't get to see the raw part of it, the ins and outs, and how it's managed, and how we cope with things that are going on during the not so fun times. So that's part of why I wanted to do it now, um, and then maybe do one after I get out of here. Also,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was like I said, I spent a lot of time in the hospital. I From age 0 to 10, I had about 26 surgeries.
Ooh.
Um, so I never really allowed myself to be weak. I've always felt like I've had to be strong, to get through life, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. And I say that number because it's not just a number; it's they're milestones um, for me too. Um, Altogether, at this point, I have had 40 surgeries in my lifetime,
Jeez.
11 of which have been in the last 6 months. And it's, I'm not saying this to throw a pity party. I'm saying this to let you guys know that it is possible to do this with an open mind, to do this with, um, it's not a death sentence. And it never has been for me and never will be. Um, yes, it's frustrating. Yes, there are a lot of hard times with it, but getting through life with a disability, I'm going to back up a bit.
Okay.
I started when I was 5 years old. My mom and I were sitting in a hospital waiting room, waiting on the doctor for a checkup, and she was talking to a mom next to her with a kid with my same disability, and they were talking about wheelchair sports. And that next Saturday, I found myself in a basketball gym with 13 to 15 kids around my age that looked and got around exactly like I did. Um, that was not normal for me at that point in time. I didn't realize um, that many people were going through what I was going through, and it gave me a support system. It gave me a. I learned a lot about physical independence.
Yeah.
Learning how to the little things that you don't even think about, the how you get dressed, how you transfer in and out of a car, how you drive, how you um, live on your own, how you cook, how you clean, how you take a shower,
Yeah.
things like that that a person without a disability would not be able to teach somebody with a disability
Yep.
per se. So that was a good thing for me. Um, and it also gave me a support system throughout life too. So, yeah, Clay, you were going to say something.
Ah, you caught me. You've been watching me too much, Shannon. Um, well, so I'm curious to know when you first got in that gym to see everybody else also in a wheelchair, what went through your head to say to I'm guessing all of a sudden you didn't feel as alone, but what was going through your head?
Um, I was actually on a level playing field, so to speak. I mean,
Okay.
that wasn't going that phrase wasn't exactly going through my head, but
Yeah.
um, it was. I can actually play with these kids and not feel like I'm in the way,
Mm.
or not feel like I have to make adjustments to be able to play. Um, so that was huge, even back then.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
so
that's when you've gone through so much already at that point, that's gotta be and the phrase that keeps coming to my mind is it had to be a little bit of a breath of fresh air to walk, well, excuse my language, to go in that gym and and have that feeling of like you had that community all of a sudden.
yeah, um, it was just unfortunate. No, well, fortunate and unfortunate, I guess, that it didn't come from a professional. I
Yeah.
figured this out from a parent,
Yeah.
and even today, people, the doctors in the hospitals don't know about this stuff as much as they should, because this is part of what should be part of rehab. And it's not just the physical part, but the camaraderie, the
Yeah.
mental and emotional part of rehab too.
Well, and so we were kind of talking about this earlier, and I think this is really cool that you told me the physical part of what you've dealt with is not even close to what has been the mental and emotional pieces of that for you because I mean, the physical stuff isn't easy to say any to start, but I
You
mean,
have control over the physical somewhat.
exactly.
I mean, and you have, and as I've gotten older, I've learned how to have control of my emotions and my feelings. But when it's not something you can teach to a kid,
No.
it you can, but it's hard, and they're not going to grasp it right away.
Yep. Yep.
So it's taken me a while to learn that.
So how did you start to learn that? Because I know you told me that you tried to well, yeah, you tried to fit in a lot of boxes, right? That
Yeah,
obviously you didn't fit in.
right.
So how do you work through that?
In the beginning, sports was fun for me. I got
Okay.
to. It wasn't. It was competitive, but it wasn't so competitive that oh look at her type stereotype, I guess. But when I got older, um, I was good. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm trying to
Yeah.
make a point that when you get to a certain level, people expect certain things out of you, and
Yep.
it's not fun anymore. Um, what should be fun isn't because, at least for me, I feel like I enjoyed sports, don't get me wrong. I'm a
Yeah.
competitive person. But at the time, I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was not doing it because
Mm,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was doing it for acceptance. I was doing it for um, yeah, acceptance,
yeah.
um, and to kind of hide behind the disability, um, put the athlete in the forefront, and not Shannon necessarily. Yeah, Shannon, the athlete is part of me, but it's not who I am um, as a whole. It's given me a lot of characteristics that I will carry with me throughout my lifetime.
Yeah.
But the medals and the records and everything don't mean as much as the underlying things, such as friendship or the lessons that you learned through about independence, um, things like that. I will take those things to me with me to my grave.
Yeah.
To I will use those day in and day out. And I hid behind a lot of things. I hid behind relationships. I hid behind sports. Like I said, job titles, you name it. I felt like I was a shadow of everybody and everything for a long time. Um, and it wasn't until about the last 3 years that I've actually tried to figure out who I am as a person. I knew I had a lot of things going on internally, but I didn't want to address them because hey, I already had a physical disability. I was already different. Why pile other mental and emotional things on top of it? Um, but in the last 3 years, I've really gotten to know who Shannon is and who I want to be, and not what I want to do, but who I want to be as a person. Um, two different things, and I've figured that out the hard way at times. Um, because, like I said, you'll have job titles will come and go. Being an athlete will come and go. Um,
Yep.
things like that, and relationships will come and go. But who
Yep.
you are inside is you can carry that with you forever. So, and being able to be upfront with who I am and owning that has been a huge part of the last 3 years for me.
Yeah, because well, I mean, you said it perfectly. All of the medals, the job titles, everything else, none of that stuff is permanent and um none of like that kind of passes with the seasons.
Hmm.
But those relationships, the values and who you are, like they may change and evolve a little bit depending on your season of life, but I mean that's still at the core of you. So, um I I love the fact that you phrase it so beautifully of you were hiding behind the disability because and I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. And I have not in the same sense, but like I have done it too of the fact that I'm like, okay, um, you play the victim
Right.
and you sit there and say, woe is me, like this all sucks instead of using it for something good and saying, okay, if this is who I am, if like I can't change some of this stuff, so how do I make the best of it of your situation and um where you're at right now in the season. So how have you been able to in a sense step out from behind even though it will always be a part of you. Um how have you been able to step out from behind that and start that process and figure out Shannon?
I was given a chance to start over, and when I got out here, I'm going to get another chance. My slate is wiped clean, especially with this one. This next one coming up, I'm excited for it because um, everybody's told me when I got back to Kansas City, I wasn't in the right mindset for it because I had just dropped everything and left everything that I knew for the last 18 years. So I was still in that depressive stage,
Yeah.
but they're like, "Oh, I'm so excited for you! You can start over. You can do whatever you want." And I knew what they were trying to say, but I was putting myself in a box, so to speak. And I shouldn't have done that because for for about 15 or so years, I've been an employment specialist for people with developmental disabilities. And I know what it's like to go into an interview and have all the experience in the world and be completely um, able to do that job. And then you come into the room and look at the chair and all that goes away.
Yep.
And to be able to help them overcome that has helped me um, step outside of that box. Um, I guess I never realized that I was put into a box until I got to be successful in sports. Um, and I like to call it society's box of perfection, that
Okay.
nobody will ever be able to exceed or to attain. For I can't think of the word that I want to use, but
That's all right.
um, but being okay with that is important. Being okay with not being able to achieve that is important because what I've learned in the last 3 years, especially, is that I'm enough, regardless of whether I will fail or succeed. I still succeed because I've learned from my losses.
Yep.
And in the beginning, when I first got back here, I was always afraid to fail, always afraid to make the wrong decisions, always afraid to look stupid.
Yeah.
Um, you would have never caught me on a podcast in the hospital, um, ever. Um, Everything had to be perfect, and then we don't live in a perfect world,
Nope.
but everybody strives for perfection. instead of progress. And
Yeah.
that's what I've learned to do is strive for progress instead of perfection in the last um, 3 or so years. Um, when I
That
was, go
that's
ahead.
hard. First of all,
Yes.
I just gotta say that breaking that mindset is hard because I've never been a perfectionist, but um, I have always, until recently as well, been afraid to fail. That is hard to break that. So good for you.
Um, what helped me when I first moved back to Kansas City? Well, let me back up just a tad bit more. I am sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
This is why we talked beforehand, right?
Yep.
Um, I've always hid behind things to escape my own reality, and um, relationships was one of them. And when I was in Ohio on July 5th of 21, my best friend was killed in a car accident, and my entire world crumbled. Didn't know really what to do, and he was a teammate. We grew up together. We've known each other since we were 6 and 7. We did everything together. I trained when I was an athlete growing up. I trained 7 days a week, 3 or 4 hours a day, and he was always there. Um, we didn't go our separate ways until college, and even talked after that and kept in touch or whatnot. But didn't really know how to handle that. So um, I've listened to him more in the last almost 3 years. Well, yeah, 3+ years than after his death than I ever did when he was alive, unfortunately. And I believe that's what brought me back to Kansas City because I needed the support system in order to get through it because nobody knew him out in Ohio. His family wasn't in Ohio. Mine wasn't in Ohio. I was isolated. I felt isolated anyway. And I needed to come home to get help and get around the support system that I needed in order to dig myself back out of that hole. Um, so that's a big reason why I came back to Kansas City. Um, about a month after I got back to Kansas City, I was hanging out with a friend, um, and I said it would be so much easier to deal with all this if David was still around. And 2 months later, I was reconnected with an old friend. Um, this old friend, myself, and the friend that I lost, um, we were inseparable in track and field and basketball tournaments uh, for at least 10 years. Um, I put a post on Facebook saying, here's a hug for anybody that needs it. And his mom reached out to me and said, so and so needs a hug. I always thought he was happy. I really did. Um, and so we reconnected. Turns out that we were going through a lot of the same stuff. And about a week later, after we reconnected, we were on the. I hadn't talked to this man in 25 years, and we were on the phone for an hour and a half one night, talking about stuff, and how he felt like people were entitled to different things instead of having to work for things. And the next thing he said to me is what changed my mindset in the beginning. He said, "We're not that way because we're built different. We're built different." Stuck with me, and he wasn't meaning physically. He was meaning we were built to see the world differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were meant to see the world through the eyes of a person who had to figure it out by themselves, pretty much, or on the fly. We had to wing it, so to speak, because we
Yeah.
didn't know how to do it. and we had to figure out the ins and outs, not even just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Because if the emotional and mental don't ever change with people, the physical never will.
Yep.
Um, you can say that it's obvious that there needs to be ramps to get into places. There needs to be curb cuts, but nobody thinks about the small things. They don't think about inclusion. They don't think about, well, they want to enjoy food too. They want to enjoy movies. They want to enjoy all these different things, travel,
Yep.
cruises, plane flights, um, and it, we're built different. Stuck with me because we look at obstacles as we don't see obstacles. We see opportunities to grow and to teach and educate instead of, oh, why shouldn't this be this way? Well, instead of griping, we do something about it. Um, and I forgot about that part of myself because I lost myself in the last 16 years that I was there. Um, because I was a shadow of everything that I was living in at that point. And it was my fault. I had a chance not to do it. I had every chance. I had all those flags were staring me right in the face, and I still did it. But if it wasn't for those experiences, I wouldn't be the person who I am today.
Yes.
Good, better, ugly, and yeah. So
What I'm hearing is you had to find your jewels and you had to polish them up a little bit and figure out what they actually looked like.
yeah, I had to figure out how I wanted to live life again, and how I wanted to be seen, how I wanted to be not be seen, but how I wanted to feel inside, um, and how I wanted to who I wanted to be as a person is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Um, well, that friend and I weren't healthy enough to continue friendship for a while. So we we went our separate ways, but I will always carry that with me, um,
Yeah.
because that's what got me started. That was the rocket booster, so to speak, that I needed, and he didn't
Yeah.
even realize he said it. I don't think he still to this day. I don't think he realized he said it, and that it made such a difference because I never got a chance to tell him. Um, but in May of 2023, I reached out to a friend, about playing wheelchair basketball, and I had gone to wheelchair basketball nationals, both the juniors and the adults. It was in Wichita, Kansas, in March of that year, and I saw the Kansas City Kings play the wheelchair basketball team, both the juniors and the adults. So I reached out to a guy, that we were had a lot of mutual friends with on Facebook. I had never met him, but he hooked me up with the guy that knew, had the connections to wheelchair softball. I had no clue how to play that game. I'm an athlete through and through. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was a deer in headlights, and thank God they were patient. I went into that. I almost didn't go. I almost didn't go to that practice because I was so scared to look like a complete fool. But I went, and I gained an entirely new family
Got to
through that
start somewhere,
experiment.
right?
Yes, and through that connection with the guy that I reached out to, um, and I will give him a shout out here in a second because that name might ring a bell to some people. Um, it led to so many other opportunities too, and actually led to this one, to a certain degree because, this person has an online business that he runs, and I went to his business opportunity meeting one night. That night, I didn't take advantage of his opportunity, but I took advantage of another one because I went to this place. It was the ACA in Overland Park,
Yeah. AC Business
and
Park.
yeah, and met somebody else. They were asking me. They were genuine. I have not felt more at peace in this than I did at this place because they were genuine. They were accepting. I've never felt more than I have in that room that night. I felt at home basically. They were asking me what I did for work, and I was telling them, and then they looked at me straight in the eyes and said, "What do you really want to do?
Yeah.
What do you really truly want to do? Not just for a paycheck, but what is your purpose? What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be a motivational speaker." So I was connected with a a TEDx speaker that was in the room that night, and he also has happened to be a life coach. So that connection happened with the connection with sports. When people say that it only takes one person to change a life, it's true because one connection with one person can reach out to a million, to
Yeah.
infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
Um, and that person that I first connected with was Ricardo Lucian. Um, he's very active with ACA and all that. He's a speaker himself. As an online business. He was the one that got me started with sports, and then it just snowballed from there. So the person that I met in that meeting was Ellen Little,
Ah, yes, Ellen.
and um, we worked together for a few months. He was the first person that has ever been able to give me a safe enough space to be able to be myself unapologetically, to be safe enough to do that. And not only that, but be able to give myself permission to be myself unapologetically without having to apologize for anything, without judgment. That's hard to do. I'm stubborn. So,
Look who we have.
Hey,
hello.
Coach G here.
hey, Shannon. Hey, Lauren.
How you
Hi.
feeling?
I feel horrible, but I couldn't um, not be a part of this for a few minutes because Shannon, I have to say the courage it took for you to do this tonight
Yeah.
just blows my mind, and I'm thankful, grateful. Um, obviously for our show, but man, I'm excited about what this is going to do for you. And I just want to lay some groundwork with you. I know Micah is online
Yep.
now at some of her comments, and maybe you need to talk with her a little bit after this over the next few days because you're going to go through the same process that Micah's gone through. And then you're talking
Right.
about the speaking group. With all of us, this really started with Evie. Evie really taught us
Right.
how to release, the healer of queens and now the healer of kings. She really taught us how to take in a ball or a hand, a fist, whatever, all that stuff we've been through and let it go.
Yeah.
And people say that's simple. That's
It's
work.
not.
That's so hard.
That is so
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah, but it's so hard, but it's so rewarding and it's so empowering. The freedom that comes with release is powerful.
Yes.
So I couldn't get away and not say those things to you. So I just think today is the start of a new journey for you for
Yep.
several reasons, because personally, you're releasing some toxicity, some pain, some trauma, some fears, some doubts
Yep.
um, that have been bottled up in your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, your muscles. all you're all the way down to a cellular level at your body. You're releasing that toxicity now,
Yeah.
and you will see fruit from that.
Yep.
You will see fruit from that. And then professionally, there's people listening tonight that you're kind of the counselor that once they hear your story, they're gonna, like the journey of a warrior with me and Lauren when she told her story, they pull down pieces and be like, oh, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I can relate to
Yep.
that. That is a true misfit. So
That's why I wanted to do it now instead of when I got out of here.
yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
to let them actually see the journey instead of just hearing about it.
Well,
So
that's, I'm sitting here looking at how impactful,
Yeah.
sitting up in a hospital room telling your story. So
I'm just gonna join really quickly. I see, Coach, that you joined in as well, but definitely, Shannon has been amazing because I've been back here listening and hearing your story and everything, and it's a ironic day in that sense. Just to let you know how the message can be impactful and all along those lines. But and I don't even think that Coach or definitely Lauren don't know this, but part of the reason I got into particularly the live streaming world is because of a family of live streamers around the country and around the world. And one of them is a friend of mine named Tim Sohn. And earlier today, he was actually celebrating his cancer battle. So I've actually been involved in that space with him and everything. So a lot of times warriors are doing things in this way. And it's just good to see somebody like you, Shannon, that is able to share this message even from your hospital bed and all along those lines, because he literally was celebrating the 3-year anniversary of his show that he has that we air on this network that is about people battling cancer and definitely surviving that cancer battle, because I think he's been in that leukemia battle for a while. So he has a show called Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer that he launched, and also a nonprofit that he launched as well. So he's launched a nonprofit about the cancer battle. So definitely just to give you some words of encouragement, because I know that you are reaching, and you may not even know this because I don't know how much Coach and Lauren have told you, but the podcast network that I'm part of, which they are now on, reaches the people around the globe. So it is a global network. So there are people that are hearing this message and are hearing what you have gone through and are being inspired, even from different cultures and different religions and different parts of our world. Because like I said, they know I'm here in Durham, North Carolina, and I know that all of y'all are in Kansas, but you are reaching people on a global level as you are sharing your message.
I
well,
appreciate
and
that, Mark.
to Mark's point, that's what I was ending with, Shannon, was that the opportunities that will come forth now for you,
Mm-hmm.
because you're opening some doors today, and I prophetically speak that into existence over you right now. Lord, I just pull it down right now, that doors, the heavenly doors and gates have now, well, heavenly doors have been opened and gates of hell have been closed. Those opportunities that were not meant for you have been shut, and those opportunities that are meant for you will now be opened. And I encourage you to seize the moment. Seize the moment. I think Lauren and I have done, not to pat ourselves on the back, but just, we were scared to jump out and launch out into the deep and do this show. And it has been so fruitful for us, and it's ministered to us
It's helped me a
individually.
lot too
Yeah, well, other people.
on the other end of it.
But now it's your turn. I think Micah, you saw, and I'm just seeing great stuff
Yep.
coming out of her. We got
Yep.
Evie coming back for part 2 here, I think next week or in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And she's going to blow our mind. And then 25 is going to be full of so much new stuff. So this is just the beginning for you. And I got to say that because I totally feel like crap. So
Hey,
that
I hear
was
you.
my energy for the day.
You go to
You
bed,
did good with
Shane.
that energy. Hey, I'm going to jump off as well, let y'all finish. But I do have a question to ask Shannon really quickly, because I know that my mom has gone through health battles, as Coach and Lauren know. My dad has gone through health journeys as well, and they have been fortunate to have good caretakers. I'm imagining that you got good caretakers as well. But I do know that sometimes we don't do enough job of respecting the caregivers, and whether it's hospital workers or others, and also sometimes they don't do, not all, but some of them are not as empathetic as they should be and everything. So I was just wondering if you could share some of your thoughts around the care that you are receiving from that particular hospital there in Kansas City, because I know that it is very important for them to hear encouraging words. And if they're doing wrong, because my mom definitely called out a nurse that was not well and was giving her the wrong food and everything, you can also let them know that as well. So I just wondered if you could share some of your thoughts around what's going on in terms of your care.
Hey,
That's pretty dusty right now, Mark. I'm in their hands.
Coach, you
Lord,
out?
lead her down that, lead her down the path to the rest of her story. But and if we need to do part 2, we can do part 2. But hey,
Yeah.
I appreciate you hosting by yourself. I know we got to get caught up this week, and then Shannon, definitely love you for having the courage to step out and launch in the deep today. So,
Thank you. Thanks for
Michigan,
jumping on for a bit.
Coach G, I'm out.
Go get some rest.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one of the things that you and I talked about earlier before we started, was that during this particular journey, and I wasn't going to bring this up tonight. I was going to wait till part 2, but they kind of opened the door for that.
Here we go.
So I am going to go down it anyway. This is just a short part of it.
Okay.
I want to set myself up and other people up for success when I get out of here. So I have been taking a certification course to become a performance life coach. So that's one of the best things that I've taken a part of, and it's actually helped me a lot too, because with the group that we're with, we have our own coaching support system, because we have to practice back and forth with each other, and so it's like you got your free therapy. It's a process.
Heck
So
yes.
it's been good. But what I've also felt or figured out is that when you help other people, you help yourself.
Yep.
And speaking does that for me, and this does that for me too. It's its own therapy. So we have about 50.
Micah says they're so good at that.
What? Opening the door? Yeah. But is that what you were talking about, Micah? Some topics that you weren't planning on talking about?
We didn't do
Anyway.
that the other week at all.
But yeah, it's been a hell of a journey in the last 3 years, especially. So I don't know if you're planning on still doing part 2, because I still have a lot to say, but
Oh yeah.
Because I haven't even gotten into everything here. But as far as the care goes, all I'm going to say is that the nurses and doctors that are really really, really good. And the ones that aren't, they're there for a paycheck. That's all I'm going to say. And it's easy to pick out.
Yep.
So if you want to be in this field, you have to have a heart for it, because it shows.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been in the situation for this long. So yeah, that's my take on that. Short and sweet. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but but that's what that life coach did for me, is why I wanted to go through that process, because I want to be able to create that safe space for other people, as many people as I can. And what I've learned is that you don't have to have a certification to do that, because I've been doing that since I've been in the hospital. And it's, go ahead.
No, you're just like speaking right where I'm at right now. I was talking to somebody about that a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about how everybody feels like they need a certification, and like when people ask about a certification or something, I sit there and think, okay, I've been dealing with this for how long? Like, I've lived it. Do I now need to show you a piece of paper that I've paid somebody to do something? Like, yeah.
And I wanted to go through it for that reason,
Yeah.
because I wanted to do it professionally.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do it professionally in order to make a difference.
No.
And I know that it doesn't sound professional, but when some of the nurses and the doctors come into my room, and this is throughout all the 3 hospitals that I've been in for the last 6 months, they automatically regurgitate everything that's going on inside of them. For whatever reason, they feel comfortable talking with me. Um, and then they stop themselves and say, "Oh, I shouldn't be doing this with you. You're a patient. I'm the doctor. I'm supposed to be taking care of you." And I said, "Yes, that's true. But if somebody doesn't listen to you right now in the state that you're in, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else on this floor either. So sit down and spill your guts, and then go out there and do your best you can." So I
Yeah.
feel like we're helping each other. So it's been a good ride.
Hey, Shannon, just
Absolutely.
really quickly, I was going to tease you and Lauren because it sounds to me like you are, and I think I should use this show before on some of the past ones with some of the other guests, and I know that I've been given this title. Some people say that it is a light giver, or that's a term that religious people use, but I like to use the term empathy, and it sounds like you are a natural empathetic empath and everything. So, Shannon, it sounds like that's what you're exercising with those nurses, is you're being an empath and letting them vent whatever they need to vent, and share whatever is going on. And I'm imagining some of that isn't even around your care or the care of others. It might be things that are going on in their life, some of their family
And
drama and all along those lines, but they needed somebody to listen to them. And you are that person that is willing to hear what they've got to say and maybe give your insights.
right. And this last portion of my stay in a hospital in this section, um, hasn't been the easiest. And I've tried to bring myself back down to that mind, that mindset of, you're here for a reason. God put you in this position, in this place for a reason, because I wasn't supposed to be here. I mean, I was physically on this earth, but not here in this facility. I wanted to go somewhere else because that's where I spent the second part of my journey throughout this whole place. And I was there for 3 months. I wanted to go back to somewhere that was comfortable, and God wouldn't have it. It's like, you're going to do this, but you're not going to be comfortable doing it. So it's been hard to have that mindset of, they might be not be in a great mood, but think about what you've done in the past with others, and you need to just let them be them. And sometimes it only takes one question,
Sometimes it only takes one question, and sometimes it only takes
one word.
one word or one
Yeah.
encouragement or something like that. Because I
Yeah.
think I mentioned this to Lauren one time, but my dad has had serious heart problems, and he's gone through rehab, and then he was at first the hospital, then the rehab center. Now he's at a home and taking care of his recovery and everything. But my dad is also somewhat of an organizer. So when he was in the hospital, he was literally trying to organize the hospital workers because he realized that they were not getting the kind of pay that they needed and everything. So while he was there, he was using that as an opportunity to do what he does, which is advocate for them. They're supposed to be advocating for him, but just like you, he wound up advocating for them because he's like, well, like, y'all need a union. And he basically tried to get them to almost form one while he's in the hospital with them and everything. So, like I said, sometimes the missions you were expecting, because I know Dad wasn't expecting to be in the hospital that long, are not what you wind up uh, finding happening in your life and everything along those lines. So, I just wanted to share that with you.
And I
Shannon,
want to,
I
sorry, go
want
ahead.
you to see this comment right here.
Siobhan. Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Thank you, Siobhan, for being on here tonight. She has been my rock, basically. And I know I'm probably going to make her cry again, but that's okay. Um, we have spent hours on the phone, hours and hours and hours on the phone, whether it be through a text, or actually on the phone. Um, and there was one night before I got to the hospital, even I was having a really bad night, really bad. I wasn't in a good place. And she just sat there and didn't sit there. She had her earbuds in, but she just didn't hang up the phone. She just listened to me cry for 2.5 hours. And I appreciate you. It's those kind of people that really make a difference. And um, she's been going through that coaching certification with me. So it's been fun to do that with. And I also met her through softball, through wheelchair sports.
Nice.
So that's another connection that we had um, through the guy that I reached out to. So yeah, thank you, Siobhan, for being on here. I appreciate it. Your sport's
Well, and just
amazing.
for everybody who is just listening, her comment is Shannon's amazing at life coaching, and when we get in deep conversations, I've had to stop talking because I'm trying not to cry at times. And she is super excited to see Shannon succeed, and absolutely. And she says, of course, she's been on the receiving side for sure. And that is what building all of this kind of stuff is all about. And Shannon, I wanted to touch on this real quick while we start to wrap up a little bit. Earlier, I don't remember if we mentioned it anything live, but earlier we were talking about how um it was a choice for you to learn to find your voice. And a lot of times, for me anyway, it came from getting being so done with feeling like you don't have one, and it almost has to start coming from a place of being angry, whether it be at life,
Yep.
yourself, or whoever.
Everything,
Right,
everything.
right. And so you say, screw this, and you get mad enough to actually take action. And that is what I see you doing with
Yeah.
this coaching and this certification, because um I hear you correctly that you're you're doing this to, well, yes, help people, but um what who's your target kind of people?
People with developmental disabilities, people that have been,
Okay.
or people that are in rehab, or
Okay.
basically people. And Siobhan and I talked about this too. People that have acquired their disability later on in life have a completely different mindset than people that were born with a disability.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't see that. They see a person in a wheelchair and combine everything together, and it's not the case. So, or either that or athletes, one of the two. It doesn't really matter. I can, like I said, I've been listening to nurses. So,
I think it'd be very interesting to see if any of those two merged and kind of infused themselves together, because
what do you mean?
uh, well, because that's what I've found with me is when I start talking to somebody about one thing, I find that like, as much as I meant for it to be um separate areas of expertise, the more I talk to people and the more I get to know them, I figure out that some people, I mean, there's a lot more to people than first meets the eye. So I'd be curious to see, as you progress in everything, um, how that takes shape. But I
Well,
love the fact that you are on a mission to give people a voice by using the one that you found, no matter how long it took. That's fine.
yeah,
How
I feel like God has put me on this journey because I've had to go through the stuff that I've had to go through in order to reach the people that I need to reach.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
they don't know how they don't care about how much you know unless they know how much you care. And I know that phrase is drilled into the dirt, but it's true. Um, I would
And
much
it's
rather learn from somebody that has gone through the same experiences that I have rather
yeah,
than somebody that has learned it from a book.
exactly. And I know, and Micah said it earlier. She says, "My life is my certification," and I
Yes,
completely agree.
yes,
Um, you you were talking about this earlier, and um, it. I mean, I'm on the same page with you because um, you said, people will say, "I'm so sorry for everything that you've been through," and
I'm not.
exactly,
I'm not.
um,
I am thankful for it. It sucks in the
exactly,
process at
yeah,
times, but I'm thankful for it.
yes. Because people have said the same thing to me, and when they hear my story, just to hear it,
Hmm.
they'll say, "Oh, I'm really sorry you've been through all that," and I'm like, I used to be, but I'm not anymore, because it's if I hadn't gone through all of that and endured all of that, I wouldn't be able to talk about anything genuinely that I do now, and it's the same thing for you.
Right. And yeah, but one thing before we get off of here,
Yeah.
one of the things that I want to really get across before I forget is, and I know, Mike, what comes out of your mouth is what people need to hear. I get that. I told you myself, but this is me reminding myself to say it. um, don't judge a book by its cover, because
Mm-hmm.
when my family comes to visit, sometimes they bring home videos. I have the biggest smile on my face, the prettiest, biggest smile on my face, but I knew deep down inside I didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
So everybody's going through something. Some people are just better at hiding it, and that's the ones you need to reach. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, and I would add to
for the most
that.
part,
I would add to that because under di- under different circumstances, I can very much relate to that to my core. And I would say even people may not know that they're going through something because they don't
right?
mentally know how to wrap their head
It's normal for
around.
them.
Yeah,
It's their normal. They don't know that they shouldn't have to go through that. They don't know
exactly.
that they don't know that they can be at peace, and there is that peace that is inexplainable, and that's why
Yeah.
I want to become that's why I wanted to get certified, because I can't. I know we're running out of time, but I I can't explain to you how much at peace I am, even though I struggle sometimes still with um, not judging myself and giving myself permission to be me.
Yeah.
I get so real myself. I'm still able to recognize it. I'm able
Yeah.
to reel myself back in. It might take a minute, but I at least recognize it, and I accept it and I own it,
Yeah.
to be able to move forward and be able to fix it or make it better
I
for
mean, you're
myself.
still human. You're still gonna.
But I never recognized it before. I
Yeah.
always pushed it aside. I always brushed it under the rug, and I never dealt with it.
And that's the key right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Well,
could have
Shannon.
kept on going because it was a great conversation. I was enjoying the conversation even in the background and all along those lines. And ironically, Lauren, I don't know how this happened. That this particular day must have been a Misfits managed day on Pod TV, because the show before talked a lot around some of these similar issues and everything. And even another one that'll air later was talking about going through the grieving process, because the host of that show lost their father a year ago and everything. So
Oh,
the grieving process during the holiday seasons. And so this whole notion of trying to survive and be strong willed and everything has been resonating through a number of the shows here on the network. I think there was even a special with a teenager that was airing, and that still might be airing and now and everything. So it's been a Misfits managed kind of evening here on Pod TV. So y'all have spread your thoughts to other parts of the network as well and everything. And I just had to share this with y'all really quickly when y'all talk about certifications, because I actually had, during the height of the pandemic, that COVID certification and got that from John Hopkins. Ironically, I never used the training, even though I got it, but I was glad to have it in case I ever wanted to use it or needed it for extra income. I just was glad to be able to know how to do contact tracing when they were offering that to folks. But ironically, I never wound up using it. So like you said, you can have it and it can be in your back pocket. If we ever get into another situation that needs contact tracing, I'll know how to do it. Of course, I'll have to have a refresher course, because even as speakers, you have to have those refresher courses, but
Yeah.
I'll know how to know the basics and everything. But ironically, I never used that certification. Some of the other certifications I've had, I have used, but that one I never fully used.
That's funny. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for being on tonight in the hospital, being in the setting that you are. Like, so many people would not have done that. And we appreciate you. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being raw and sharing your story. And I'm not going to ask you to share nuggets yet, because you're not done.
Part two?
Part two.
Part two's
Part two
coming
is
there.
coming. We will.
Hey,
We'll
Lauren,
confirm.
this may be a first, because I don't think we've had people come from their bedrooms, including a world famous politician, and we've had people come from different environments. But as far as I can recall, I don't think that in the 4.5 years of the network that I ever remember anybody coming from their hospital bed. So this may be a first. I'll have to go study my records, but I don't think we've ever had anybody ever do this before. So this is a first on the network as far as I am aware, and I'd have to go back, but I don't think that I've ever remember seeing anybody that was bold enough or brave enough to come from their hospital bed. Just really quickly, because I know y'all are winding down, and just to let you know, the commercial that I'm going to play at the end is one that I play regularly. So as we're heading out the door and everything, is because it's an important part of healing and all along those lines. What is your thoughts about the importance of mental health, Shannon? Because the PSA that I'm going to play is about mental health and everything along those lines. And then I'll let Lauren end everything. But just to give context to the ending, even in the healing process, what is the importance of our mental health journeys?
It's extremely important. I mean, for me, it took me a long time to accept and own that I had internal struggles as well. Heck, I was born with a physical disability. Why would I want to own that I had troubles internally as well? So it's important to give people that space to be able to grow in that way and accept their internal process as well as their external, and give them grace and give them that non-judgmental space to be able to do that and know that it's okay and they're not alone.
And that is exactly where I want to pick up part two, because that's a massive conversation in itself. But with that, we will see you all for part two. Thank you, Shannon. And
Thank you, guys.
this is Lauren and Coach G in spirit, and Shannon.
Shannon and their producer Mark. So we're going to get out of here with that message that I said we'd have about mental health and all along those lines. So great show, and I'll catch y'all next week.
We are sending you signals every day.
We are sending you signals every day.
We're sending you signals every day.
We're sending you signals every day.
I'll be feeling sad, but you're too busy to notice.
We are sending you signals every day.
I'll tell you that I'm feeling afraid,
but you'll just tell me everything is okay.
I'll get real angry about something, but you'll take it personally.
We are sending you signals every day. My grades will drop,
and you'll yell at me for not trying.
I stopped caring about how I look,
and you didn't even notice.
We are sending you signals every day.
I don't see my friends anymore.
And you think it's good that I'm always home.
We are sending you signals every day.
I'll tell you, I wish I could go to sleep and never wake up.
And you tell me to stop staying up so late.
We are sending you signals every day.
I need you to look.
I need you to listen.
And ask me if you can help.